House, please come to order. House. As Master of Ceremony, it is my honor to welcome you all to the official closing ceremony of the 20th annual session of Genoa Model United Nations. Before we begin, we'd like to mention that yesterday, the United Nations General Assembly signed a non-binding resolution regarding the current situation in Ukraine. The United Nations has urged Russia to retreat from sovereign Ukrainian territory. We at GeMUN believe that this is a noteworthy success for the international community after a year of intense fighting in the region. Furthermore, we, alongside the Secretariat, would like to offer our deepest condolences to the victims of the earthquakes that have plagued Turkey and Syria this month. We'd like to dedicate a minute of silence to all the lives lost. Thank you all. And with that, and no further ado, I would like to officially start today's closing ceremony. It is now my greatest honor to give the floor to the Secretary General of GeMUN 2023, Vittoria Valeri. Ms. Secretary General, you have the floor.
Thank you, Gabriel. Distinguished authorities, guests, and keynote speakers, honorable MUN directors and officers, fellow members of the Secretariat, hardworking delegates, members of the staff, press, and security teams, good afternoon. It is hard to put into words just how bittersweet it is to be stating this preamble that I have inexplicably grown fond of these past years for the last time. And it is such an honor to be here today, having experienced the entire duration of this project I've taken pride in representing this year. With this ceremony, the 20th session of General Model United Nations will officially be over. Over 600 people will resume their lives, return, in many cases, to their home countries, hopefully cherishing the experience. After all, this is one of the things GeMUN does best. It is probably our very Italian warm approach that we have even in diplomatic matters. Or it could be that either in our maritime air, in the hallways of Palazzo Ducale, Prefettura, or Camera di Commercio, there lies a sense of something bigger than us, something that hides in our 20 years of history. It is tradition for GeMUN's Secretary General to put together a moving closing speech, and although I don't want to fall into any cliches, while writing this speech, I found myself writing what reads like a love letter to this project that has gifted me so much to both myself and thousands of participants. Over these years, over these past 2 decades, GeMUN has established its charm over everyone who has taken part in it at least once. After all, there must be a reason why, regardless of state-imposed limitations or any other type of complications that have afflicted us these past years, why so many decide to come back and more every year choose to join this project. Echoes of our times. I'm certain at this point it has been established that this has been the focus and title of this conference. Echoes has been the key word not only of these past 3 days, but also of months of preparation. The Collins Dictionary defines this noun as the reflection, the repetition of something, or even, more abstractly, something that evokes memories. And what better time than our 20th anniversary to take a walk down memory lane? We have discussed hundreds of topics. We have spent even more hours in preparation. Our delegates have written thousands of resolutions, all of which represent thousands of initiatives put in by students to overcome conflicts and disputes. This is the true purpose of MUN conferences like our own: to establish in young people a sense of duty, of responsibility towards society, an internalized idea that we too can have an impact on society, and not only that, but also that we must be agents of change, an awareness that is possible to both acknowledge issues and disparities and look past differences and cultural social limits. Embodying a nation that is distant on several levels from one's own is an incredibly powerful tool that MUN hands their participants. It ideally teaches students, teenagers, the skill of compromising. It forces participants to put things into perspective, to rationalize. Most importantly, through dialogue and resolutions, it subtly compels us to be compassionate, sympathetic towards one another, and in the big scale of things. Compassion is one of the most valuable and universally needed values. Society is made up by large communities, and there is no space for individualism in such spaces that are not physically present, but are organically made by humans because of our nature to seek company and understanding. As predictable of a choice as this is, there is this quote attributed to German-born theoretical physicist Albert Einstein that I find particularly fitting and that I would like to share with all of you. A human being is part of the whole called by us universe, a part limited in space and time. He experiences himself, his thoughts, and feeling as something separated from the rest, a kind of optical delusion of his consciousness. This delusion is a kind of prison for us, restricting us to our personal desires and to affection for a few persons nearest to us. Our task must be to free ourselves from this prison by widening our circle of compassion to embrace all living creatures and the whole world of nature in its beauty. Belonging to something bigger than ourselves, collectively serving a purpose. This is the most powerful feeling GeMUN participants share. Over these past 2 decades, there have been 20 Secretary Generals, over 50 Under-Secretary Generals, 40 presidents and co-presidents of both the General Assembly and of the International Court of Justice, and just as many heads of staff, press, and security. We are all united by our dedication to this project, the same devotion that makes ex-participants still want to show up year after year. This history, these students who are now adults making up a legacy they have the pleasure to see come to life time and time again. The most meaningful thing, this experience that I will always carry with me, is the powerful human connections I've had the pleasure to establish. From people with whom I'd never thought I'd bond with to ones I've always looked up to. Some of them have left a permanent mark on my life's trajectory. It is incredible what a few, as 5 people, can do in only so many months working in a tiny room together. Stereotypically, the dynamic that has formed would be described as a family, one that argues from time to time but always ends up loving each other. I personally find that comparison wouldn't be too accurate. Love is not what bonds us. It isn't the sentiment that has gotten us here through blood, sweat, and tears, although it is a side effect. We are all driven by a desire to do our best, to uphold this legacy and to, if possible, do better, be better. I wouldn't be completely honest, and this wouldn't be a cathartic speech if I didn't thank our MUN directors, the teachers who've had to endure months of texts and emails from me and the Secretariat. They are the best role models GeMUN's office could host. I'd like to thank them for the incredible humanity they've shown and the support they've offered to us and the passion for this project they have installed in us. They are the ones that ensure human connections are at the base of this conference. Mr. Orlando and Mr. Lozada have helped me, and many students before me, onto the path towards being the person I want to be. One that is passion-driven and that, regardless of challenges and hostilities, can show empathy and understanding. two values without which there would be no diplomacy. I would also like to thank all delegates, officers, and members of staff, press, and security for their work and for taking part in this project. I will forever be grateful to this project and the people who have, in these past 5 years, made it become my dearest memory. May the legacy of these years echo into the continued success of at least the next 20 years of GeMUN's, and I thank you for your part in making this possible. I yield the floor back to the Master of Ceremony.
Thank you, Vittoria. I would like to now give the floor to one of our GeMUN directors, Daniele Orlando. Mr. Director, you have the floor.
Dear guests and participants, we have finally reached the conclusion of GeMUN 2023. I wish I had enough time to thank each and every one of you who has made all of this possible. However, time is of the essence, so please know you have my utmost gratitude. And I commend you all for all of the work and passion you have put in the last 3 days. With the permission of the Master of Ceremony, I urge you all to give yourself a huge round of applause. Still, I really need to say a couple of thank yous before we go. First off, my thoughts go to all the students in the final year who've made who've had an amazing career at GeMUN and whom I'm going to miss dearly. Gabriel, Luli, Sophie, Magdi, Sere, Fede, Georgia, Magda, Georgi, Viola, Miki, Gabriel. I wish you all, and I'm sure, you will build for yourself the brightest of futures. Vicky, you have been the best boss ever. If I had to put a face to the word kindness, I probably picture you coming to the office with pastry for everybody. Go and shine even brighter. Cinzia, all of the school staff, all of the English teachers, and most importantly, Miss Fada, for being amazing listeners. Thank you. Thank you to all of my students for being the best teachers ever. And thank you to Edu for being a good friend and for teaching me that I can trust people to do part of the job, even though I still do it better. But today also marks the 20th anniversary of GeMUN. So my thank you also goes to our Russian colleague, Dina Kotelnikova, and Prof. Ignazio Vianzano for bringing the conference to our school so many years ago, and to the thousands of voices of students whose voices have resonated in these beautiful halls ever since. You know, 20 years ago, I had just arrived at the Leda as a student. I have to say I was a very decent student. I was terrible at maths. My teacher used to call me a big potato because apparently boiled tuberuses are very slow at maths. But she was just kidding, or was she? I was very good at languages though. I still remember like it was yesterday being in the English class and falling in love with the likes of Shakespeare, Oscar Wilde, Fitzgerald. I remember my very first English essay. I remember running home and saying, hey, I got a 10. And my family went, only? But they were just kidding. Or were they? Still, despite all of my good grades, I never did GeMUN as a student. I was not feeling like I was good enough. Definitely not fluent, let alone smart enough. Isn't it ironic? Today, I'm one of the GeMUN directors. But I very much still am that 14-year-old boy who wouldn't speak into a microphone. I even ended up working for the European Commission for 3 years, and I spent those 1,095 days, I told you I'm bad at maths, 1,095 days in fear that they would find out that I'm just an imposter. And but charlatan syndrome hasn't really abandoned me, and it still accompanies me to this day. Every single day I go to class, even though today I actually have my dream job. I work with the most amazing team of people, and I have a wonderful family, and that is definitely more than enough. Sure, I'm not going to feature on the front page of the newspaper as the one kid who got 6 degrees in 5 years, or as the youngest ever teacher at the age of 18. Isn't that extraordinary? But then you turn to page 3. University student commits suicide as she felt she wasn't good enough. We devote 3 minutes of silence to that poor girl, who definitely was more than enough. And we turn to the next page, the terrible news, nothing but an echo. And it's only a matter of days before it becomes static noise, the forefront occupied by a political arena too busy cancelling a 19-year-old singer for kicking roses on a stage, or for another man kissing another man at a music festival. Very pressing topics, right? Much more important than condemning the new rise of neo-fascism among the youth. The sad part is, it's not extraordinary. It's exactly what happens on a daily basis. We cancel people. One moment, we mourn the death of a teenager, and the next, we cancel another. According to UNICEF, every 11 minutes somewhere in the world, a teenager jumps off a bridge, voluntarily ingests a mix of drugs, or hangs themselves. Almost 46,000 adolescents take their lives each year, and yet we were all good enough. Isn't this an echo of the time we're living? It feels like we are in a collective race in which nothing is clear except that everyone is winning but us. We don't even know where the finish line is, what obstacle we have to hurdle, but others are always ahead of us, doing more and doing it better, having more success, money, happiness, no stumbles, no doubts, no setbacks. After all, the grass is always greener on the other side of the fence, isn't it? Yet, we are all someone else's others. No one's actually leading the pack. No one's winning, no one's losing. But not only do we forgive and accept all of this, but sometimes we even celebrate this race in society where privilege hides behind a supposed merit, which is only measured in numbers, and where success stories are the only ones worth telling. We are all victims of the collective notion that we must compete every day against the others, though we're just as lost, just as tired. We're all human, and we all just want a chance. A chance at life, really. We're much more than a bad mark in the English test. We're much more than the exam we won't pass. We're much more than the wrong job we fell into. We're much more than the unnecessary comments on the outfit we are currently wearing. We're much more than the heartbreak we're going through. We're much more than the image we see in the mirror. We're much more than the lies they say about us. We're much more than the stories we won't get to hear. We're much more than the mistakes we have made. We're much more than all of that. And yet, we're more than enough. We just sometimes lose sight of it. We lack the courage to fail, the honesty to admit it, and the fortitude to fix it. And it's right in those moments that we come to believe that our voice doesn't matter, that we are not making a difference, that our echo won't reverberate long enough, that our voice is not important in times of war, natural disasters that we see with our own 2 eyes. Quite the opposite. How nice would it be if instead of willingly putting ourselves in hell, we could look for a way out together? My favorite poet, Walt Whitman, in a short composition titled "O Me, O Life," ponders on the meaning of a life he describes as a vain struggle, surrounded by foolish people who betray our expectations and in constant search of something better than what we have. The question, "O me, so sad, recurring, what good amid this? O me, O life?" Answer, that you are here, that life exists, an identity, that the powerful play goes on, and you may contribute a verse. The verse to a song we can sing individually without being mythical heroes, beautiful damsels, or wealthy aristocrats. A verse that's stacked onto the billion other verses that don't even belong to us is part of a larger collective harmony we all are singing. So it starts with us, with giving ourselves and others that chance at life that we all long for. Sing verses of kindness and expect nothing in return. Our words have a lasting power. It's a very gentle power that can elevate, accelerate, and resonate well beyond the moment we utter them. I look out to you and I am hopeful. I look up to you and I'm thankful. I hope this message stays with you even when we're no longer together. So let's get loud, everybody, and treat people with kindness. One final thing before I go. For someone who's home watching this, happy birthday to my beautiful baby boy, Lorenzo, who's turning 2 today. And thank you from the bottom of my heart. I yield the floor back to the Master of Ceremony.
Thank you, Mr. Orlando. It is now my honor to give the floor to C. Mohammed Kabul, our keynote speaker. Mr. Kabul, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Dear guests and participants, good afternoon. Assalamu alaikum. Bon après-midi. I'm honored to take part in this important initiative, which sees so many young people intent on honing their skills to become the next leaders of this world. I truly believe with the greatness of the challenges facing the world today, we need people with a big heart and the willingness to take on the suffering of others, together with the will to bring to fruition the project and policies which can help us to reduce and ultimately eliminate inequality. The theme of this edition, in the resolutions discussed and approved in the last 3 days, I find encompasses the work we need to put in on our plans, which is constantly sending warning signs, echoes of the times we live in, echoes from the past that call us to action in the present, to safeguard people and the environment, to reestablish peace and justice, and make the future bright and free of inequalities. Inequalities that often condemn people to hunger, to death, and drive people away from their families, their loved ones, and force them to seek shelter and redemption where freedom and rights are guaranteed. I'm basically one of those for whom immigration was the only possible way to write a new chapter in our family history. I didn't choose to migrate, but my father made the choice for me because he didn't want us to inherit everything that hindered his education as a child, his freedom as a teenager, his independence as an adult. And you too, in the last 3 days, practiced how to make choices, how to imagine potential solutions, those that are most needed to those who are subject to a dictatorship, those who try to survive poverty, those who demand their rights to be respected. Taking care of the needs of others should become our daily practice so that the heritage we are going to leave to future generations can be the firm will to preserve our sense of humanity, to be ready to face any threat to our living together on this planet. It's a huge responsibility, a rather high task, but we have no choice but to make it our own. Because when a lake becomes a desert, people migrate. When a town becomes a battlefield, people migrate. When free expression becomes dangerous, people migrate. We all might have one reason or another to go elsewhere, thus becoming the strangers to someone else, and firsthand experiencing what sociologist Abdelmalik Sayad calls the double absence. In North Africa, there is a specific term to describe the immigration of those who leave their loved ones, bearing the responsibility of having to succeed at all costs because they leave taking with them the hopes and expectations of many. To describe the distance that is created between the emigrant and their family, one uses the term ghorba, which has the same roots, the word sunset. It is a word that encompasses a whole host of feelings, even conflicting ones, but which preserve in itself the much anticipated joy of the immigrant's return home. However, to make that link with the sunset clear, the word ghorba also alludes to the disappearance of a person over the horizon, moving far away, like the sun, which in order to shine again, must make its absence felt. That's what it is. We must create a new sunrise where everyone has the chance to rise and shine in their own way, wherever they are and wherever they wish to go, without ever feeling out of place, like in the word of the famous writer Edward Said, just because they do not fit into a classical and rigid idea of citizenship and culture. Today, in times of globalization, it is evident how, in contemporary society, it is reductive to classify people and ways of life on the basis of geographical origin, since the biographical trajectories, cultural references, experiences, customs, and beliefs of each person are in fact increasingly the result of hybridization, networks, and ties that transcend borders. And the result of all this is certainly the cultural new profiles. Here today, we need the courage of all those who want to be protagonists of their own destiny. And today, in a world where inequality and injustice erect walls of indifference, we need those who want to stand in the gap between past and present to build a stable future. Those who want to make choices, confront, negotiate, and reconcile. The border to which I refer has nothing to do with the trenches of wars, the entrenchment of discriminators, the fundamentalism of the violent, or the cynicism of the fake righteous. The border is the will to be protagonist of change, to embody it, and to oppose those practices that undermine human dignity, that maim the physical, that annihilate people's character for them to be overcome. For this work of repairing our world, we need to understand which echoes of our past to listen to and which tools to use. We need to equip ourselves with new words. to rehabilitate meanings, to open discussion about us by talking about peace, rights, respect, and plurality. We need ordinary heroes, those people whose actions and words have a positive effect in the world. Those heroes with tireless will to never give up on themselves, to never let the culture of violence gain ground. History offers us so many examples of ordinary citizens who became models and catalysts of revolutions to remember and be inspired by. But you today's potential ordinary heroes, you Vittoria, you Matteo, you Gabriel, you Michelangelo, you Eleonora, you Mahmoud, you Ihsan, you Moa, you Benjamin, and you Adele. But what makes a hero ordinary? The ability to put the interests of the collectivity at the core of their actions, with humility and dedication, without feeling or acting privileged, and without giving into individualism that without a doubt feeds their ego but doesn't promote the ethic of cooperation and respect of all individuals and their freedom. We all need to think of ourselves as part of the same community, because as Zygmunt Bauman says, we must think global and act local. This is the secret to overcoming challenges and creating new echoes to entrust to new generations like yourselves, who will go to build representation and representativeness that is authentic and respectful of the diversity that make each one of us unique. I would conclude my speech thanking you students, you teachers, for your engagement in the last 3 days, exerting your will to take part in the decision-making process. Because we need to be part of transformation, we need to be transformation for better. Thank you for your attention, and I yield the floor back to the Master of Ceremony.
Thank you, Mr. Kabut. It is now my pleasure to give the floor to one of the Undersecretary Generals of GeMUN 2023, Viola Costa. Miss Undersecretary General, you have the floor.
Thank you, Gabriel. So, esteemed guests and participants, my name is Viola Costa. I am 18 years old, and I'm currently attending my 5th and hopefully final year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. In this year's session, I had the honor to serve as Undersecretary General alongside Matteo, and let me just say how grateful I am. My GeMUN experience started 5 years ago when I was just a delegate sitting in one of the back rows of Palazzo Ducale, really excited but still unaware about the amazing journey that would have led me here, sitting at this table with our secretariat. This past 5 years have been really tough and demanding. However, this conference has always managed to make me grow and evolve as a person. This year's theme was Echoes of Our Times. These months, preparing GeMUN, and especially these 3 days of debate, have taught me something extremely valuable and of great importance. They changed my view on everything that is happening in the world, their causes and consequences. You see, we can look at the world as a big domino in a precarious balance. Every time a negative action is made, this balance crumbles, falls apart, and consequently, all the fragile cards of the big domino start to crash in the wrong direction. That is exactly what is happening today in our world. Mistakes, negative, and wrong actions were made in the past, and today we get to carry the weight of their consequences. So as long as humans keep up with this trend, all the consequences will weigh even more on future generations' shoulders. However, we have the opportunity and the duty to change this pattern. Right now, it is like we are trying to hold the last piece of the domino up and to prevent it from falling. But that is not enough. We must reverse these negative and wrong decisions into something positive. We have to change the direction of this enormous domino. We have to start to speak up and take strong positions in order to make actions with a positive impact in the long term. Therefore, my invitation to all of you is for this GeMUN to have a meaning, for it not just to be an experience to live in a drawer once we get home, for it to be a means, a tool that you can utilize in your daily lives. Thus, I want to invite you all to start your own domino effect of positive change. Every action has thousands of consequences. So whenever you get a chance, choose to act positively, no matter how small your action might be. You never know the millions of repercussions on the future it might carry, and therefore the large impact it will have. In conclusion, I want to thank each and every one of you, from the ones that have accompanied me through each day of this amazing journey to the ones I just met 3 days ago. You have all been such an inspiration, and I'm happy to say I am proud of all of you. And in particular, I would like to thank GeMUN. Thank you for all the laughs, the tears, for all the lessons learned, and for the way it made me grow. You have been a constant, an anchor, and a light in the dark. Um, sorry. And finally, thank you to Mr. Lozada, Mr. Orlando, Giorgia, Gabriel, Vittoria, Matteo, Michelangelo, Giorgia, and Eleonora. Thank you for pouring your hearts and souls in the making of this conference. It has been one hell of a ride. Goodbye, GeMUN. It's been an honor. I yield the floor back to the master of ceremony.
Thank you, Viola. It is now my pleasure to give the floor to the President of the General Assembly of GeMUN 2023, Michelangelo De Luca. Mr. President, the floor is yours.
Amiable members and colleagues of the Secretariat, honorable officers, distinguished guests, indispensable members of staff, security, and press, esteemed delegates, and members of ICJ, good afternoon. My name is Michelangelo De Luca. I am 19 years old, and I'm currently attending my 5th and last year al Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. First of all, let me say, it's a pleasure for me to see you all in this house, and finally, in the same pre-pandemic conditions. This year, in the General Assembly, we discussed the topic, striking the migrant crisis at the Syrian Gap, which is an enormous and critical obstacle and one of the most dangerous migration routes. The delegation had a fruitful debate, in which they found very effective resolution to solve this issue. My experience with GeMUN started 5 years ago, and since then, I covered different roles. I was a delegate for 3 years. The following year, I was an officer. And this year, I had the chance to serve as President of the General Assembly for the 20th GeMUN session. In this 5-year journey, I had the chance and opportunity to grow and improve not only my adaptability in different contexts, but it has improved my teamwork with other people, whether delegates, officers, or secretariats. Unfortunately, this is my last MUN, and this year, it's been an honor to serve you as President of the General Assembly. This experience has been an opportunity, first to myself, to better find and explore the issues addressed, and for the participants, since they could simulate this important conference, to improve their cooperation between their colleagues. I wish to thank the GeMUN directors, Eduardo Lozada and Danilo Orlando, to have allowed me to play the role of President of the General Assembly. I also would like to thank the members of the Secretariat for the hard work to prepare this session, and in particular, the Master of Ceremony, Gabriel Corbetta, and the Compressor of GA, Eleonora Seghezzo, for the collaboration and cooperation during the preparation in these months. I hope you enjoyed this experience. I would like to invite you to GeMUN 2024. As a famous athlete would say, lights out, mamba out. I hand the floor back for the last time to the Master of Ceremony. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelangelo. I will now give the floor to the presidency of the International Court of Justice of GeMUN 2023.
Sorry, someone's crying. Like I have never seen her like this before. So be patient.
Sorry. Honorable Master of Ceremony, Secretary and Undersecretary General, Moon Directors, Officers, distinguished guests, esteemed delegates, indispensable members of staff, security and press, fellow advocates and judges of the ACJ, good afternoon. My name is Giorgia Ravera and I'm currently attending my fifth and last year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. This year, it is a pleasure for me to serve as co-president for the International Court of Justice in this 20th edition of GeMUN. In the past few months, since September, I've had the honor to spend every Friday with all the members of the course working on disputes of our world. I've seen everyone putting all of themselves during every lesson, and I can see now that every effort was worth it. I'm so delighted of the results that we have achieved together, and today is unfortunately the end of an incredible journey. When I think about my GeMUN experience, I suppose I can consider myself quite lucky. After joining the ACJ, for actually unknown reasons, I never thought of changing committee. It was indeed the best decision I could make. Finding myself in court, even if it was during the pandemic, was a life-changing experience. During the past 3 years, I've had the chance to meet extraordinary people. Clever, dedicated, bright, hardworking, always ready to improve and hungry for knowledge. They all have made a difference for me in my GeMUN journey. There was, and still is, something spectacular and inspirational about seeing such passion and dedication. Every time I enter the court, my fellow colleagues remind me of every lesson ACJ taught me, because after all, it was not the Court of Justice, but rather its members who made me understand the unique value my opinion holds, the art of looking at the big picture, the non-existing of an all-black or all-white truth, but a reality formed by numerous shades of grey, as it has already been said in the opening by my fellow colleague. And last but not least, I've learned from the time spent in the ACJ the benefit of constructive dialogue and cooperation, an essential part of our society. I now leave the floor to our beloved Registrar Anna De Ponti.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Anna De Ponti, and I'm currently attending my fourth year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda, and I'm honored to serve as registrar in this 20th edition of GeMUN. Last year, I was a member of staff, and I was assigned to the ICJ conference. While assisting the debate between judges and advocates, I found it very interesting. I immediately started thinking about joining the committee, imagine myself as a judge. But then I had the privilege to live an even more personal experience as a registrar of this wonderful conference. For anyone who doesn't know who a registrar is, simply my job is to listen to everything that is said and write it down in some kind of report that at the end no one will read. But anyways, it's such a wonderful role because I have the opportunity to participate in debates that concern our society. And I want to thank from the entire presidency, all the judges and advocates for the wonderful job that you have done in this month. Thank you, judges, for proving that pigs and cows can be the focus of our whole debate. And thank you, advocates, for providing such evidence. Moreover, a sincere thanks goes to our GeMUN directors, Losada and Orlando, and to the Secretariat for the last month we spent together working hard every Friday until 6 to make this GeMUN happen. Thank you.
The last thank is actually from all the court and all the members of the ACJ, and it goes to Chiara, Sara, and Federico, the former presidency. Even if this year you were physically with us, you were here present in our hearts. You made us all grow as people. And thanks to our president, Georgia, for believing in us and for teaching us to believe in ourselves. Thank you, everyone, and sorry for everything. We now leave the floor to the president of the ACJ, Giorgia Ziglioli, for the final word.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. And I am pleased to announce that the court, after days of debates, reached the verdict. And after thorough deliberation, the court has decided the winning party. And the winning party is the applicant party. Congratulations. I will now be reading an extract from the verdict. The International Court of Justice, after due deliberations regarding the application by the State of Azerbaijan in the proceedings of application of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, Azerbaijan versus Armenia, the International Court of Justice orders, adjudge, and decrees that the implementation of Tsegakron in governmental decision during the First Nagorno-Karabakh War breaches Article 2, Subclause A, and Article 4, Subclause A of the CERD. And the Republic of Armenia has denied the Azerbaijani people the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, thus violating Article 5, Subclause D, Subclause 7 of the CERD. And the Republic of Armenia has denied the Azerbaijani people the right to opinion and expression, thus violating Article 5, Subclause D, Subclause 8 of the CERD. After looking at the evidence provided by both applicant and the respondent parties, the following measures should be put forward in order. The Armenian Republic will actively cooperate in the process of creating safe conditions for the return of Azerbaijani people expelled from the occupied regions, and that both the Republic of Armenia and the Republic of Azerbaijan must participate in further diplomatic meetings in order to reach a common ground and prevent future tensions, and that the opposing parties' population must be guaranteed the enjoyment of the fundamental human rights, and that both countries must guarantee the preservation of the opposing parties' cultural sites and cultural expressions, that the Republic of Armenia must provide for the refunding of the damaged cultural sites, and that the lacking corridor must be reopened and protected by UN-appointed peacekeepers agreed upon by both parties in order to ensure the passage of first needed supplies, and that both parties may interpellate the court for any further issues falling under the jurisdiction of the International Court of Justice. Now, we will announce, sorry, I need to breathe. Okay, we will announce the awards, and do you have them? Okay, sorry. And the best judge award goes to Judge Polovio.
And the best advocate
goes to Emma Carbone. And moreover, for the honorable mentions, Judge Bonadio, Judge Vannini, Judge Mirisola, and Judge Salvi.
Thank you, Presidency. While the Presidency continues to take pictures, I will now yield the floor for an announcement regarding our Help Code charity event.
Dear guests and participants, I'm Virginia Vallarino, and together with Elisa Sabattino and Giorgia Ricci, helped by press members, we have raised more than 1,900 euros. This money will go to Foundation Help Code, which helps children all around the world. It's been a pleasure. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. We will now be entertaining the Best Delegate Awards for each committee. I would like to call the chairs of DISEC to please approach the podium and give out the awards.
Okay.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emma Puerari. I'm attending my 5th and last year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda, and I had the honor to serve as main chair in DISEC during this 20th session of GeMUN. They'd been 3 days of intense, fruitful, and inspiring debate, in which all the delegates worked together to find concrete solutions to crucial issues such as the illegal supply of military weapons, the youth terrorist recruitment through social media, and the incorporation of artificial intelligence in warfare. I'd like to thank my fellow colleagues, Officer Cristina Katayeva, Diego Lopez, and Zoe Del Sonno, the MUN directors, Mr. Losada and Mr. Orlando, the whole secretariat, and the whole team that hardly worked on this incredible project for the last months. Now, I would like to honorably mention some of the delegates who got involved the most during the debate in our committee. The delegation of North Korea, the delegation of Bulgaria, and the delegation of Israel. Congratulations. Finally, the nomination as the best delegate goes to the delegation of Cambodia. Please, delegate, approach the podium. I yield the floor back to the Master of Ceremony.
Thank you kindly. Now, may we have the one main chair from each of the committees please come to the podium in this order? SOCHUM, UNEA, UN Women, ECOSOC, and Security Council. Thank you.
Guys, okay.
The floor is yours.
Dear participants and guests of GeMUN 2023, my name is Raffaella Corevi, I'm 18 years old and I'm currently attending my last year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. This year, I served as one of the main chairs of the Social and Humanitarian Committee. This year, at the Social Committee, really surprised me and my fellow officers with countless resolutions submitted, and needless to say, our delegates were really engaged in the debate and everything went smoothly. This was definitely one of my favorite times in GeMUN, thanks also to my amazing colleagues and our friends, Chair Gherardi, Chair Martinelli, and Chair Becchini, with whom we have worked collaborating constantly and with mutual respect for each other. I also want to thank the MUN directors, the Secretariat, and the other officers for making this experience memorable. It is now my pleasure to announce the people who have stuck out the most in our committee in the last days. The honorable mentions are Delegation of the United States of America, Delegate of Israel, and Delegate of Barbados. And the best delegate award goes to Delegation of Bulgaria.
Chair of UNEA, you have the floor.
Dear guests and participants, good afternoon. My name is Davide Magliano, and I'm attending my 4th year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. It has been an honor to serve as a chair in UNEA. First of all, I would like to thank you, all my fellow colleagues, Aje, Ginevra, and Farah. It has been an active debate. That's why I thank all delegates for their involvement and participation. But some of you have contributed more than others to the flow of the debate. So, the honorable mention go to delegation of China, Cameroon, and Norway. And the best delegate goes to Ethiopia.
Chairs of UN Women, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Emma Komaski, and I'm attending my last year of high school. I had the pleasure of being a main chair at UN Women during this session of GeMUN. I'd like to thank you, my fellow colleagues, main chair Pietro Pappalardo, Giulia Pasotti, and Irene Soro. Thank you. I would also like to thank all the security and staff members present in my committee. And now I would like to mention some of the most active delegates during the debate: the delegation of US, the delegation of Iran, and lastly, the delegation of China. Last but not least, the nomination of Best Delegate in UN Women goes to the delegation of Egypt.
Thank you. Chairs of ECOSOC, you now have the floor.
Dear participants, good afternoon. I'm Alice Daddi and I'm currently attending my fourth year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. It's been an honor to serve ECOSOC as a chair this year. I sincerely want to thank my co-chairs, Sara Torrisi, Beatrice Bevilacqua, and Jana Zwica. To conclude, I'm going to tell you the best delegate and the honorable mentions of ECOSOC. The honorable mentions go to the delegations of China, Bulgaria, and New Zealand. And the best delegate award goes to the delegation of Argentina.
Thank you. And now finally, main chair of Security Council, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Giulia Bregu, and I'm attending my fifth and last year at Liceo Linguistico Internazionale Grazia Deledda. And this year, I had the honor to be one of the main presidents of Security Council. In these past 3 days, the delegates discussed about important topics such as the issue of armed groups in the DRC and the ramification of the Mexican war on drugs. It was a fruitful debate, and I'm not lying when I say that all the delegates were excellent and created a debate based on the desire to find reasonable solutions. Before proceeding and announcing the best delegate and the 3 honorable mentions, I would like to thank everyone here for making this GeMUN a wonderful experience. But in particular, I would like to thank the MUN director, Mr. Lozada and Mr. Orlando, for assisting us all these months. The Secretary General, Victoria, for encouraging me to pursue a career as an officer. My dear colleagues from the Security Council, Cecilia, Emma, and Yasmin, and all the people who have made the last 5 years of GeMUN unforgettable. I will always be grateful to this project. Thank you. And now, the honorable mentions go to the delegates of United States, United Arab Emirates, and Ireland. And finally, the award for best delegate goes to the delegate of Russian Federation.
Thank you kindly to all of our officers. Next, we will now entertain the Best Staff Awards. I would like to call the heads of staff to give out the awards.
Dear guests and participants, good afternoon. We are Martina Barbieri and Sofia Velardo, and as heads of staff, we are honored to have you here today at GeMUN 2023, as this will be our last GeMUN experience. This year, we have been overwhelmed by whole new dynamics that made our last year definitely different from the previous ones, and we live this last GeMUN journey as if it was a brand new beginning for the entire team. The pandemic years brought us to mark a before and an after in our lives, and GeMUN was obviously involved. At first, when we were given this assignment, we found it challenging and tough, but now, looking back, we are honored and satisfied with our work. Despite all the issues and complexities, we managed to lead a whole crowd of people, and we are ready to pass the torch to the following generation, prepared to serve GeMUN with passion and dedication, just like we did against all odds.
We
hope our work was successful and that we managed to pass down to the new staff generation the true meaning behind GeMUN, that it's not just made of co-working, Fridays spent at school, and 3 days of assisting the committees. Looking back to our experience, we think about friendship, laughs, and the excitement of waiting for GeMUN. At the end of the day, we're happy with what we did. During these 5 years, lots of people left and many others joined our team. Now it's our time to say goodbye and leave our stuff in the hands of someone else. And even if it seems to be sad, we're happy to conclude our GeMUN experience with a conference that finally came back to normality. We want to thank every person that has been part of GeMUN during these years, even person that taught us something. We are truly grateful to what we shared this experience with wonderful teammates like Luis and Gabriele and our working MUN directors. We want to thank everyone, thanks to our staff, and a reminder to those who will have our role next year, treat your staff well.
Now it's time to give a special award to the best staff of this year, who is Mia Perez.
We also want to give 4 honorable mention to Giorgia Rocca, Elisa Sabatino, Virginia Vallarino, e Giorgia Ricci.
Thank you so much. We would now like to entertain the Best Press Awards. I would like to call the heads of press to give out the awards.
Honorable guests and participants, indispensable members of staff, security, and press, good afternoon. Our names are Federica Rizzi and Serena Albanese, and as head of the press team, we are pleased to have you here on the last day of GeMUN 2023. We are both attending our 5th and last year at the Liceo de Ledda. Therefore, this will hopefully be our last GeMUN, but we are so grateful for everything GeMUN has offered us these years. We will always remember this incredible experience that has taught us what it means to work hard as a united team that shall be grounded on profound mutual respect and open communication. Both of us will surely miss being a benchmark for the other press members, the new and the old ones, passing on to them everything we have learned and what GeMUN has represented for us.
We wholeheartedly hope that this GeMUN has been as memorable to all of you as it has been to us, and that you can treasure this experience, which we guarantee will come in handy in the future. We would like to thank our school and MUN directors, Daniel Orlando and Eduardo Lozada, and all the members of the Secretariat, staff, and security that made everything we see today possible. Lastly, it's fundamental for us to also thank every single member of our indispensable team that worked hard and cohesively throughout this last year. We hope we made this GeMUN special for those who are attending their last year of school like us, and we hope that the initial approach for those who are experiencing GeMUN for the first time has been nothing but positive. We hope everyone will remember every aspect of this event, from the days spent preparing everything, creating original content and solving problems, to all the laughs and the new friends we met, because this is what GeMUN is about. Our honorable mentions go to the press member from Denmark, Bertram Munk and Andres Soer. And then, also to Adelitista and Emma Cervetto. But now we will finally announce this year's best press members, Arturo Signorelli and Lucrezia. Aldo, please approach the podium.
Heads of security, what can I say? The floor is yours.
Dear guests and participants, astonishing members of security, thank you once again for joining us. We are Luisa Fusco and Gabriele Rosicco, heads of security, and we are extremely delighted to have you. We are extremely delighted to have you all here at the end of what will be our last GeMUN ever. It would take too many words to describe to all of you how intense and emotional the path to get here has been for us throughout these many years. However, we believe it would be more significant to paint a picture of what this experience, with all its obstacles and satisfactions, means for us and our colleagues. The two previous editions of GeMUN have been the result of extreme dedication and willpower. Facing a global crisis and learning to work under such hostile circumstances could not have been possible without our beloved MUN directors and the efforts of our students. All the hard work we have put into the youth organization has paid off once again. We've managed to put on the very first GeMUN after the pandemic without any type of restriction.
We are a unique generation. And what we have been through over the last 3 years is incomparable to anything this initiative has ever seen in its 20 years history. We are the before, the during, and the afterwards of the COVID-19. We are standing here speaking to you all for the last time, even though for us, it feels like the very first. This transitioning phase does not only consist in going back to the ordinary, but rather witnessing a proper generational change. Now it is all in the hands of the newcomers, the ones we worked with, laughed with, got angry at, and helped outgrow their fears and worries. Both the stressful and joyful moments will remain with us always. The late afternoons spent in the busy office making badges and placards, the hours spent learning how not to be discouraged when difficulties arose and facing the mistakes we had made. But also, the late afternoons spent joking around together, the hours spent fantasizing about this last day, realizing that we were also the ones learning something from the younger colleagues, and that despite everything, sharing the same experiences, even the darkest of time, can be overcome. It's been more than memorable, and we hope to see you again next year. Thank you.
Now, before we announce the best member of security, a last special thank you goes to my colleague Gabriele Rosicco for being my biggest supporter since day one, and without whom I wouldn't be standing here today. Thank you.
Now, the best security award goes to... Honorable mentions to Lorenzo Guglielmini, Jacopo Capraro,
Ibel Crimi, dove sei? Va, fatti vedere! Tommaso Barabino.
The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Masters of Ceremony. Thank you, Heads of Security. It is now my pleasure to give back the floor to the Secretary General of GeMUN 2023, Vittoria Valeri.
Thank you, Gabriel. I once again would like to thank all guests and participants. It is with great pride for our achievements that I officially declare this 20th session of GeMUN over.